Happy Sunday, everybody. I hope you're doing well. My name is Scott Mendenhall. It is a beautiful day in Minnesota. I don't know where you're watching. It could be around the world. We are many locations, but one massive, exciting heart to just hang out with everybody. I'm joined with some good friends. We've got Joey to my right wearing a Levi's hoodie. Is that like saying you're a 49ers fan?
No, it's not. I'm just wearing. It's just really comfy, to be honest.
Do you know why I would say 49ers fan?
No.
What?
Levi's is.
We'll bring in another expert in football matters. Dwayne, all the way down in Mississippi, still snowed in. Can't get food to the location because there's so much snow. Dwayne, how we doing this morning?
Morning. I'm good.
Dwayne also supporting a new haircut. Looking good.
You get stuck in the house for a week and you kind of get bored and just kind of like, okay, let's get crazy here.
So you cut your hair, or did Elizabeth, your wife?
Elizabeth, yeah.
Did you cut her hair?
I did.
No, you did not.
What?
I did. I even broke out so we're doing a lot of construction, so I have a leveler. So I even broke out the leveler and used that to make sure everything was just straight. It's like my carpentry skills are, next level now.
Yeah, I think that's how they do it in the actual hair salon.
I don't think Michaela would ever let me do that.
I've cut Holly's hair. I did wake up this morning at 6 o'clock, and I walk into the bathroom, and Holly is cutting her hair this morning. I go, "What are you, 13? Just chopping away at her hair." I was like, "What are you doing at 6 in the morning?" It was pretty funny. She had a good chuckle. I had a good chuckle. Before we move on to Lily, what is my reference to the Levi's hoodie in the 49ers, Dwayne? Do you know?
Levi's Stadium.
The stadium they play in, Joey.
Oh.
That's it. He has no other response. So Can you tell us who won the game between the 49ers?
49ers. I
Yes,
watched
they did.
the end of it, actually.
49ers, where Lily is married to a Packers fan. How we doing, Lil?
I'm doing good.
How is your husband doing with that
we
loss?
had a funeral last night.
A funeral.
It was so sad. No,
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Packers did well.
It was,
though,
yeah.
Sorry.
They did. It was a great game.
It was.
a great
There
game.
was part of me that rooted for the Packers for like a split second there. And then they fumbled it, and I was like, "Get it, 49ers!" So they knew my real heart. That was the thing. I thought I was going. I couldn't. I really ended up wanting the 49ers, I guess. So 49ers are in. Packers out. I thought it would be great, Lily, if it would have been next week's game would have been sweet if it would have been the Packers versus the Lions.
Yeah, that would be sweet. Two NFC teams at the NFC Championship.
NFC North teams, yes. Yeah, she was close. It was sounding
But they
really
are
good.
NFC teams, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
NFC
because-
North is more specific.
Right, but it's the NFC Championship, so no matter who's in the game next
It's
week
gonna
would
an
be
NFC team.
yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's
NFC North.
Yeah.
That was close.
our conference playing together. Nonetheless.
Yeah, would be cool.
Guess we'll
another-
have to settle for a 49ers and Tampa Bay next weekend.
Ooh, yeah, that's your guess today? You're wanting that
That's not my guess, but I was throwing that out there for Dan.
for Dan. Dan, who's in the chat, he would like that. He feels a bit of love. Tampa Bay, they gotta play very big today against the Detroit Lions, who seem to be doing well. This is not a football channel. We're just kind of catching up. Hopefully you're enjoying it. Super Bowl a couple weeks away. We always do a chili cook-off here in Minnesota. If you want to fly in for it, it's a lot of fun. Bring your own chili. Your name could get on the trophy. But we enjoy the sports and things of that nature. And so, big game today. Where is that game today, Dan? Or maybe Dwayne, is that game Tampa, Detroit? It's in Detroit.
Detroit. Mm-hmm.
I do have, and it's a bit like probably the 49ers and Packers game where I'll go back and forth. I want Tampa Bay to win, and then I want the Lions to win just because of the story. Like, there's a little bit of compassion for that team who has not done well. But then if they win a Super Bowl and we haven't, then we become the only team. We become the worst in our division. So there's I've lost a lot of sleep about this.
Yeah.
Not really.
I could tell you were tired.
You could tell us tired.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, so that we'll move on. But good games yesterday. Another round of great games today. I hope the Bills win. If the one team I really like to see in the Super Bowl would be the Bills. I don't even have to worry about picking on that side because it's the AFC, so it doesn't really. I can have a AFC that I like. So Bills, it is. Bills.
What makes you like the Bills?
Man, I don't know. There's something about that organization. One, I think growing up and watching them get smashed in 3 in a row Super Bowls, 3 in a row against the Dallas Cowboys. So I kind of have a thing that I'm like, man, you grew up watching that, and it was some tight games, and some of the stuff you're just like, that was ridiculous, like an oops play that made the game go a different way. So, and then I like their quarterback who didn't play. He was not picked up by any college. He went and played for a community college. I've read this the other day. It was pretty cool. No college picked him up after he sent all these tapes around. He went and played for a local college, like a 2-year junior college, played, sent his tapes all over the place. And some team, I think he went to Wyoming. Dwayne, do you know that? Is it Wyoming?
Yep.
He went to Wyoming. He got picked up by them. But they came to look at one of the other players on his team, and their eye was caught by the way he played, and they picked him up. I don't know if they picked up the player they came to scout, but they picked him up, and then all of a sudden, I just like the grit he's got. He's a bit of a gritty guy.
That's cool.
So
I know the coaching staff that I played for at NDSU, actually, a lot of them went to Wyoming, and those are the coaches that took Allen.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's sweet.
That's cool.
That's really cool to know. If you didn't know, Joey, athlete, man. Training for a marathon.
Yeah.
I heard you ran the other day to students.
I
like
did.
the
Second
students,
marathon.
you
I
ran.
did. I ran last night, too.
Yeah.
That's so
I'm like,
great.
what am I doing in this 0-degree temperature running?
That's what
I
happens.
felt like Scott
You-
Mendenhall.
I ran
You
yesterday.
drink the water, you can't stop. Sometimes.
I
I
love it.
did. I defeated the water, but
She did run. We do have video and pictures of her running.
you're gonna be addicted. I can call
I
it.
actually
I can see it right now.
I'm not going to be.
You are.
You just ran in. It was like -3 yesterday, Joe. I'd say you got a healthy problem,
Yeah.
a good one.
I actually kind of like running in the cold.
I love it.
Like, I don't sweat as much. I mean, I'm warm.
Once you get
I'm
warmed
like
up,
warm, but
Yeah.
like I'm not like out of control, like sweating, and I can't stand running in the heat.
yeah, I agree. Now I do. Somebody asked me this, and I might have said it online already. When they ask, "Oh, why do you run in those cold temperatures?" All of the things you said, but I do think running in those really frigid temperatures is more of a risk than in the heat, because if you have a problem, you get hurt, or you overheat, you just find shade and you escape from the sun and you can cool down unless some medical problem's going on.
Yes.
But if you got hurt and you're a couple of miles from your house, you're in trouble because you can't stay warm and you are wet.
Yes, I was thinking about that on the run actually last time. Like, if I let's just say tore my Achilles or
Yeah.
whatever, and I went down, I'm like, good thing I have my phone. But if I didn't have my phone, I'd be like just stranded
Yeah,
out there. And
but
hoping
even
that-
with your phone, like if you're a couple miles from the house,
And it stops working.
you're a couple miles from your house, you call to get a ride. By the time they show up in these temperatures and you're wet, you're at the beginning of hyperthermia. I mean,
yeah.
that's what at least I read in books is like how fast it happens to those temperatures. But it's fun. I like when I come home, especially with the beard, icicles that are just hanging off, and it isn't for the faint of heart for sure. How far did you run yesterday?
5.6.
Ooh,
or
yeah,
something.
you know you're
Nice,
addicted
Joey.
when you're counting the points. You know it. You just do. Like you're every footstep matters. I ran with Dwayne last year, and I was like, because I know some people are like, I gotta stop at a complete mile, and I'm at this point where I've run enough where that 10.10 doesn't matter to me, so I'll stop it at like if I'm running 5 miles, I'll be like 4:90. I'm like, cool, it's great, good run. Dwayne's like, no, we got to go get. Right, Dwayne? Remember that?
Yeah.
So-
I'd be like that
Yeah.
too, Dwayne.
So my numbers are kind of all over the place. They're not right on the dot. Sometimes it works out they are. But usually they're either over or under. And so did you
See-
look and compare your run yesterday to my run then? You said you do that.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I've been done with that for a little bit.
Well, we ran the same distance yesterday.
Yeah, and I'm following this training plan. It's telling me to run slow. So
Yeah, yeah, I do that. I ran slow twice this week. I think I did 10 or 11 minute miles. Then yesterday was not that.
yeah, that's what I did.
I think cold temperatures, and we'll get off it because this isn't a running channel either, but cold temperatures run slow. Like to run fast is asking for injury because your legs are not as warm as they would be in the summer. So you don't want to do much speed work. Okay, thank you for joining us today, man. We got a great topic today. We just right away start talking about it, but today we're just getting a little coming in slow start today. How to find your life passion. We are trying to build on from last week, finding your why or your what. We posed a question for you to ask what breaks your heart, and that gives you the direction to start going. Hopefully this week has been something you've been paying attention to. What breaks my heart? What have I said? Somebody needs to do something about that. And it's been a fun conversation this week with a lot of you developing that. Developing my why, what breaks my heart. And as we develop that, we start to understand the direction we can start going. It's naturally in you. I think we've made it in our culture such a mystical journey to find, what should I do with my life? Because people compare. Oh, I'm not doing that thing that person's doing. But what you are passionate about that breaks your heart actually could be the building block as you develop your thing to somebody else's why. And then all of a sudden, 10 years down the road, is this partnership that develops something that the world didn't know they needed, or it actually fixes a problem. It's a solution. And so today we're going to talk about a piece of it, trying to find your passion, but also giving you some tools to stay the course. To stay the course in an unpredictable future, especially here in the United States. We are in the United States, so a lot of our thoughts we speak into what's going on in the culture here as we are into a beginning of the political season. Some would say, well, where have you been? It's been going for a while. No, it's just ramping up, and you can tell all of a sudden it's ramping up because of what's being posted in the news and people posting social media reposts. All of a sudden, especially this week as things are rolling, all of a sudden in people's feeds, it's no longer about puppies, cats, and food. It's now puppy, cats, food, political. And you gotta, how do I hold to what I feel breaks my heart in a climate that's going to be unchanging and unpredictable in the future? That's what we're going to try to help you in the next few moments to make a decision today that will ultimately help you in the future. That's the hopes. That's where we want to get you today. So I'm excited about the topic on how to help you find your passion. And your passion doesn't need to look like mine or Lily's or Joey's or Dwayne's or anybody. It needs to be. Here's the deal. If you borrow someone's passion, you won't finish what you start. It's gotta be what breaks your heart, not what broke their heart. Now, sometimes what breaks another person's heart, I possess the skill and ability that I can come in and help. Like when Lily, early on in her CrossFit stuff, or even Joe, I can't use Joey because I'm a runner. I helped Lily in my knowledge of athletic stuff, of heart rate and all these things that translated into what she was doing, because I had already been there, done that on that side of things. So what did I do? I partnered with Lily in her endeavor to get fit through CrossFit. And we talk about here at Unlock Church, partnering with people to unlock their God-given greatness. Partnering with people to unlock their God-given greatness. That it is not, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, you're not fully unlocked your greatness. And so we want to do life with people digitally in these means. We want to be here for you. We want to be able to answer your questions. We want to do life in this capacity, getting you on mission trips, getting you involved in small groups. In that journey, we want to build relationships with you. Why? So we can do life with you, partner with you to what? Help you unlock your God-given greatness, your purpose. That God-given, it's God-given, it's to you, but it's unlocked through a relationship with Jesus. So that's where we're here for. And today, this topic, we're going to use an old, I'm going to use the word ancient story to reveal this. This is something that the leadership team uses to answer questions even in the budget. So this is going to be a reminder maybe to some of you. This is going to be a refresher as we're in the new year, at the end of, we're almost a month into the new year. And I don't know how you're all doing on this. last question for you. I was going to say, I don't know how you're all doing with your New Year's resolutions, goals, whatever you want to call them, your ins and outs. I don't know how you're defining it. It's all the same. You just want to be a better version of you at the end of the year. But you've got these goals. Let me ask this question. How many goals on your goal sheet have nothing to do with you in your kingdom, that it doesn't actually impact you? What in your goals is about other people? Think about that. What goals this year have you set that impact other people? It doesn't impact your wealth in a net positive. It doesn't impact your home. It just solely seeing needs, meeting needs of other people. If you don't have those on your list of goals, the ins and outs, you're missing it. It is, if you don't figure out your purpose, you're going to find yourself frustrated and disgruntled in life. Some of these, again, my vantage point, when we talked about mental health a couple of weeks ago, from my vantage point, when I talk to people in this, a lot of mental health things, not all of them, but a lot of them are wrapped up into, I don't know my purpose. I have done enough, or I've done too much bad in my life to really pursue my purpose. Who should I be? How should I do based on my past? And we got to stop doing that and really buckle down and figure out, man, what am I passionate about? What breaks my heart? And then pursue them with all the risks. Pursue them. Pursue them. And I'm telling you, in that you will find purpose and you will renew some things inside you. So that's the topic, how to find life passion in purpose. And so we're excited about talking about those things. To get the conversation going, we want to watch a video that Who God Says You Are. It's a lady that's speaking about herself to herself. So when you hear it, she's speaking to her, but encouraging you and I when she speaks. And so I want you to listen to it, and hopefully it gives you some energy, excitement in your purpose and finding your what, and the reminding you that your past does not define you. And through a relationship with Jesus, we can be reminded that when we ask forgiveness, it's a clean slate moving forward. And what are you going to do with your clean slate in 2024? Check out this video, and we'll be right back.
Who do you say that I am? When I think of myself, I know exactly what you see. Every flaw, every blemish, the scars of my hurts and my mistakes, the things I've done to myself, the things that have been said and done to me, that's who I am. You see a mother, a daughter, a sister, an aunt. You see the scarce shadow of a woman's potential irreversibly wrapped in failure. But then I hear it. That still, small voice. Who told you that? Who told you that you are defined by your mistakes? Who told you that you are ugly and broken? Who told you that you are only measured by what you give others? Who told you that brokenness and frailty are what you carry? Haven't you heard? You are not what everyone says you are. You are who God says you are, and you are His. He says you are fearfully and wonderfully made. He says you are a perfect design, made for a purpose, made for a destiny, and you are never alone. He says He'll never leave you nor forsake you. He goes before you. He goes behind you. He says you are bold. He says you are brilliant. He says you are brave. He says greater is He that is in you. You are a masterpiece, hand-painted by the Master Himself. You are who God says you are.
Oh man, I hope you like that one. That's like a good inspiration. If we could just say to ourselves when we're feeling down about ourselves, picking a fight with our own self, ever do that? You have a battle about you're not good enough. Who am I to start something new? Who am I to be passionate about that? You are who God says you are, not who I say I am, or all those negative thoughts. You ever think about this? That the negative thoughts that we have in our head that pop in there, that's not godly thoughts, because God is not a God of negativity. So when we have things that are going in a narrative that's negative, downward spiral, that's not God speaking into you. God speaks life and encouragement, boldness. So when it lines up to that, you know, oh, that's God. So when you're looking for God's voice on what breaks my heart and what should I do, listen for the positive, uplifting, go get it, you got this, I created for something. Listen to that voice, okay? Because we got narratives that we all spin in ourselves all the time, and I'm one of those. I am one of those. I am not any different in any of you, in that I still have the same thoughts. I was telling Lil the other day, I don't remember the numbers, maybe you remember, Lil, but that we have the amount of the average human being has the amount of 2 hours worth of negative narratives in our mind. That the way the brain people figured this out is they put wires on your head and they just tracked. And when you had a negative thought come into your mind, they would just keep track of it. And there was a select few that would hear the negative talk, and it would take, no longer would it be a couple seconds. The average was 5 seconds or so that it took, okay, for a person to get the thought out of mind. But other people would take it, and it would be minutes. So obviously the average gets really skewed when you got 5 seconds. A lot of people kick it out, go, no, I'm not going to entertain that. And then there's groups of people that it's 2 minutes, they entertain the negative thought. And so from the test, they came up with the idea or the understanding that most people spend 2 hours of a waking day fighting, combating negative thoughts. And they said the negative thoughts, if you knew my negative thoughts, like I'm speaking to you at home, like the Dans, the Marnies, the Jens, the Kayla Lilies, like if you knew the negative thoughts that popped in my head all week, you'd be like, who is this guy? Because we all have those. Where'd that thought come from? Where am I crazy? Am I losing? Have you ever gone to like the Grand Canyon, looked over the edge, and then you back away because you're afraid you might throw yourself over? And you're like, why would I think like that? It's just a thought that popped in your mind. Now, some people, like, instead of bad thought leave, you latch onto that and you entertain it, and it's now 2 minutes and it's really gotten way out of control. You got to get those bad thoughts shortened because they pop in and you got to kick them out. But 2 hours, we spend of 8 hours, or like, I don't know how many, I was going to say 8 hours, but I was saying sleeping. But the waking hours, let's say you sleep 8 hours. Dwayne, can you do the math with me? You have 24 hours in a day. We're going to sleep 8 hours because that's what a healthy human being should do, 8 hours. How many hours do we have left in the day?
Out of 24, 8 was at 14? Let's see. Yeah, it's 14.
Lily's giving it.
16.
Minus the 4 hours.
No. Just
that
I want
you have negative thoughts?
No, I want the 8 hours out. So we're at 16 hours? 16 hours left.
I still would have done that wrong.
Out of 16 hours then, Dwayne, 2 of those 16, the average person that only has like 5-second thoughts, the amount of bad negative thoughts we have is 2 hours of those waking hours. I found that like, what? So no wonder why some days I don't do anything, but I'm exhausted. Because I've been fighting these bad thoughts that I've let entertain longer of I'm not good enough or whatever it is, right? There's those easy ones that you get out that are like just ludicrous thoughts. You're like, no, I'm not going to jump off the side of that to see what happens. It's dumb. But then there's other thoughts like I'm no good, and you spend hours and hours upon it and your brain is fatigued on it. That's why the authors of the Bible talk so many times, renew your mind. Like, just because psychologists have figured out that we spend 2 hours a day with negative thoughts doesn't mean we have to. Paul talks about renew your mind. Think on these things that are holy and pure. So that means when negative thoughts come in, you got to counteract it with positive. You got to know who God said you are. So when you're telling yourself you're no good, you can go, but no. The King of Kings and the Lord of Lords says, I am not that. That I am a somebody and I can have purpose and I can be passionate about this and I'm going to change the world. It's understanding those things and those practices and principles that counteract the thing that you're naturally already fighting. 2 hours. That means you had 16 hours in the day. Now you're down to 14 hours a day to get it done, unless you're trapped in the negativity. And now all of a sudden that takes your whole day. Got to fight it. So everyone has negative thoughts. Just some stay in the negative thoughts too long. Stay there less time. Fight against it. You got to recognize that's a bad thought. Get out of here. I mean, when I was 16 and I started thinking about this, I literally would say to myself, sometimes out loud, because I had to, because I couldn't shut the voice up, bad thought, leave. Just say it. Bad thought, leave. That's a bad thought. That's not who I am. That's not what I want to think about. Bad thought, leave. I mean, have you ever been so upset at somebody, a coworker or something, and you thought some thought about like what you, it's like, that is a horrible thought. Like, I got to get that out of there. Think about something else. So here's a post. Those are all free things. Here's a question I'm going to ask for all of you in the chat today. One, thank you for everybody that wrote a review on Google, on YouTube, on Yelp. If you could do it again, the more we keep doing that, the more the algorithms of the world will help us spread the good news and invite people. So some of you jumped in and did that. We'll put out a reminder. Follow us on Instagram. We're going to start doing better at posting pictures and things. Here's a couple pictures we posted this week on Instagram. Here locally, we gave around 200 heaters at our theater where we meet. We rent a theater here in Champlin, Minnesota. Here are a few of those pictures. We're just going to cruise through them. Just people picking up. Look at the smiles on their face. Here in Minnesota last week, it was a high of -10 or something. Just keep thumbing through them, Ledge. We don't need to spend a great deal of time. Crowds of people. People were calling people, hey, they're really free. You can take them. And you can just look at these. That's your church. Your church went and figured out how to get these heaters, and then we gave them to the community here. And it was awesome to be able to help so many people. It felt like they were shot, like, oh, what one's this do? Oh, this does this? This is a vertical one? Oh. And they were just, it looked like a Christmas day for so many people. And I think one of the cooler stories of the day, I think it was the last heater we had, we put it away in our storage there. And we were about ready to leave. It's 1 something. And so, a couple walked in. They're like, do you have any heaters left? I said, I think we got one. So we get the keys, unlock it, come back, go, here you go. They're like, oh, this is awesome. We saw the post on Facebook. We didn't really need one, but then our dog went into labor today, and the room we're putting the puppies in is too cold. So we needed a heater to warm up puppies. And so even that, like, it put a smile on my face that we were able to help this couple that was like, I knew they were free, and it was just cool. All the stories. Thank you for all of your guys' generosity. Here we try to take all the resources and allocate it in the right direction and do what we believe we're supposed to be doing with the resources. So without your generosity, 200 families wouldn't have little space heaters to stay just a little bit warmer. So thank you. I hope you see those pictures and you're proud of those, because that's an extension of you if you give here at Unlock Church. So thank you. It is so cool to be writing the stories. And that's one of the first things in what? Are we three weeks into the last week? 3 weeks in? 4?
3 weeks. We have 1 more week.
3 weeks into the new year, and we're making history for people. Already seeing needs and meet needs. It's just so cool to be able to have the ability to do that and be able to figure out how to get those here. The story on that is those heaters came from North Carolina. That's how we were able to get them. So we got them up here to Minnesota in June, and then we have stored them here on this property, over 200 heaters. Lily, how many times did you move those heaters?
A lot. Probably like 7 times.
A lot.
Move them all.
Oh, yeah. And it's not something you can move like 4 at a time. The max is like 2 that you move. So we were healthily disgruntled about the heaters, to be honest with you, because we were holding on to them for 6 months. Not a one of them came home, and they're at home. So that's, to me, is super exciting. Last week, we gave you some of the budget numbers and things. Some people ask, can we have clarity on? We talked about how at the end of the year, what we have projected to what we're going to have come in and what we're going to spend is going to put us in the red. Here are the actual numbers for you. This is what you can be praying in your generosity. We are projecting the big number to your right. That's total expenses we have in the budget right now. Total income is very hard to predict, but we try to be very wise and conservative. That's the difference. And you saw the breakdown of all of that. That's not like going into like humans' pockets, okay? That is renting everything. That's you get it, like all the things we're doing here, okay? So that's total income to expenses. So we need you to pray that $33,494, that there's that difference, that God's faithful and shows up and shows off, and that's through your generosity and stuff. That's us. That's a faith budget right there. This is the first budget where we've done that, because typically we do it where we wanted it all just be really nice and even. Whoop. Okay, we're breaking right at zero. Woo, that's a healthy budget. This is not how you normally would run a home budget. But we felt God's asked us to do what we're doing with a digital and local spread the gospel marketing. And so that's why we're pushing. Go to Yelp, go to Google and write a review, even on This Week or sharing these things. It's going to help where we're putting resources to start doing that. And so every week we're going to remind you, because we need your help. We can't do this without you. This isn't something that Lily and I can push the boulder up the hill and it just goes. Nope, we need all of us going, no, we see what Unlocked Church is doing, and you see that, you're like, oh, that's so much money. Sure, if that was a personal budget, but that's not. That's trying to see needs and meet needs across the globe. That is not profit. That is, like, again, go back and watch last week. All of that's getting dumped back into ministry, and that we love. And you just saw pictures of it from last week. So thank you. That's a little bit of the commercial. We'll just get out of the way as well, a chance to give as well. We make it really easy here. Your tithes and offerings. This is a place we use your money to do ministry across the board. So many of you guys have been a recipient of it. You can text the number. This is the digital way to give. You can text the number 77977, the word unlock, and it'll walk you how to do that. You can also go to unlockchurch.com/give and give that way. Pay attention to our website. We're in the middle of redoing it. At some point, it'll be all brand new, a new facelift. In the new reaching digitally we're doing, we got to clean up our website and have the right information on there. So stay tuned there. That's going to be changing, which we're really excited about. Lily's putting in a lot of good work there. So excited about that. Okay, let me ask this question in the chat. Answer this. Who would you like to be at the end of the year of 2024? Who would you like to be? Now, if you want to make it even a longer runway, who would you like to be when you're all grown up? So obviously you're 16, you're thinking, well, when I get to 30, I want to be. That's cool. That's where you're at. You're 45. That's me. When I'm 80, I want to be, right? Like we all have these skewed perspectives of when I grow up, whatever you're deciding growing up is the goal, the target, who do you want to be? Or by the end of 2024, who do you want to be? And do your goals reflect that? So put it in the chat. Who would you like to be? Joey, who would you like to be at the end of 2024? Ooh, is this a toughie?
They're all toughies, you know. But I would say I would want to be somebody who has made a difference and who has really taken care of what God has given me in my life. So I would be being a good steward and making a difference in people's lives. Nice.
I like that. I want to make a difference at the end of 2024. That's a good one. How about you, Dwayne? How would you answer that question? The end of 2024, who do you want to be?
I mean, I think the easiest thing to kind of sum it all up is I want to be a mirror, right? Like we want to reflect who we see Christ is in the Bible. I mean, that's the goal for everyone. Should be the goal for everyone. I don't know, specifically for my life. Yeah, it is tough. Like of pinpointing. Okay, what is it that I want to be? Like I want to be healthier. I want to be wiser. I want to be kinder. Like, yeah, all of that is definitely true.
Yeah, again, I think as what I love throwing the questions to the team here is they're going to answer it similar to how you would. And I think you, again, the goals, they got to be measurable, right? And how do you measure it? As Joey goes, how do I know if I made a difference? Or if we don't know who we want to be at the end of 2024, how do you know you got anywhere? Some of the times we struggle in life with our mental capacities. We're not measuring things in our lives. We're expecting results, but we have no idea how to find the results because what were we trying to do? Is it a pursuit of happiness? Because happiness is not something you gain in purchasing. You sow and reap your way to happiness. You sow and reap your way to happiness. So pursuing happiness is futile. Futile. You've got to sow and reap our way to happiness. So how do we do that? A whole nother conversation. But pursuit of happiness can't be the goal. I just want to be happy every day because that's not going to happen. So make who you want to be. How are you going to know you get there? Lily, how about you? You had the longest, so we're expecting something.
It's nothing profound.
Oh!
No, but I think it's really interesting to you can think of if you're a follower of Jesus, there's things obviously it covers all of it, but I want to be closer to Jesus. I want to be a more, I'm learning how to be a wife that is a follower of Jesus. I've never done that before. I've never done both. And I want to see people make moves toward him. I want to see our students become more deeply in love with him and make their life choices based on what he wants them to do. But then there's also selfish ones, I guess, that they could be selfish, who I want to be. I want to be tracking toward what does it look like for me to be a mom someday? Is that this year? So I don't know. All the thoughts pop in my head.
And it's a big question. I think that's why we avoid it. Is we just tornado ourselves into a bunch of categories, but never really finalizing the thoughts. And I think if you can pick one area in your life to stay in long enough to get a measurable goal, so at the end of 2024, you're working towards it and you can measure it. Now let me ask it in another way. Who do you want to be like at the end of 2024? Because this might help. Who would you, and we're going to go around the studio and stuff. Who do you want to be like? And you can put it in the chat as well, even if we don't know. Who would you like to be like at the end of 2024? Joey?
No, I've never really liked this question, to be honest.
Great.
Because I want to be me.
The one he just asked.
Yeah, I've always struggled with it because I'm my own individual. So trying to be like somebody else, I feel can be unhealthy.
I feel
sometimes.
there's only
now.
Well, do
I would say the characteristics of somebody.
Right. Yep.
I mean, Scott, I would say you're somebody I look up to. That I would say that I want to be like. There are parts of you that I want to be more like, and there are parts of you that I might not want to. But I would say you, a mixture of you, my dad. I mean, those are, yeah.
Yeah, which I think that, Joey, I want that tension in people. I'm not looking for us to be a carbon copy of another human. Joey got to it. Dwayne, I heard you in the background kind of saying amen to it. It's not I want to be that, but the qualities I see in their areas, and you even alluded to me, there are things in my life you're like, nah, because my personality is different than yours, so you're not going to do those things. But there are qualities that you can look and go, I do want that. In my life. And so we should all be somewhat of a hybrid because no human being is winning in every area in their life, but they're winning in a area. And you can go, in that area, I want to be like them. And so I posed a question, and thank you for the kind comments. I wasn't fishing for me to be on there. But I wonder if you guys can all answer now this next question. We're just a series of questions to help you get there, right? Is why that person? Now I'm asking you, why are you choosing that individual? What is it about that individual that is attractive to you? What does it make you? What have they done or doing that you find so attractive that you're like, if I could be like that one individual in that area, that'd be awesome.
And I think that'd be awesome, but it also helps me get closer to my goal in life. for me, I want to be a woman of God. I want people to know that I'm a follower of Jesus when they talk to me, when they see me. And like, even for example, Jen, who's in the chat, invited me to do this kind of devotion every day for 60 days. And she sends me a picture of it and we talk about what sticks out to us. And like, Jen is for sure on my list because she's a praying wife and she wants to be someone who is lifting other people up all the time, but also is devoting her life to Jesus. And so Jen, you'd for sure be on my list. And it's only because she has connected with me personally that she's even on my list. So I also think it's like, you can have people who you watch and who you never really connect with, which is great. But there's also, I think there's an importance of like relationally, the why they're on that list. You're in relationship with them, so you know why you want to have like a certain characteristic they have.
Yeah, we're gonna give Dwayne a shot because Dwayne was like amen in the back of the air. Dwayne, who would you say you would want to be like? And you can give us the why to make sure you quantify your answer.
Yeah, I mean, I really, as far as who, it's hard to pick out one person because early on in my relationship with Jesus, I had an opportunity to go to California and to spend a summer out there. And one of the pastors that I was working with was like, one of the things that makes it so easy for him to love on people that are not Christians, that are so, so against his views is, we're all created in God's image, and there's a part of God in all of us, and it's just a matter of getting to know them and seeing that. So I think whenever I'm lucky enough to get to know someone, like, okay, hey, you know what, that's something like I see God's image, I see God in that aspect. It's like, okay, that's something that challenges me to be better, because I feel like, if, again, like we're all talking about, people are not perfect and people let us down, but at the same time, it's people have good qualities about them as well. Even our enemies, if we give a time to actually get to know them and see them like Jesus does. So I think my dad, definitely comes off as, someone who likes to help out family and does so much good. So, that's kind of where the amen in the back came from. Is, we all have, qualities, and we see people and, okay, hey, you know what? Like that's what I was reading about in my Bible, and like, that they're emulating that.
Yeah. Now, for all of us that is answering this question at home and here, now imagine an entire world at the end of 2024 with those qualities in them, right? Imagine the ones that we chose. None of us are, I didn't hear at least, maybe somebody in your mind you're saying, oh, I'd like to be this person because of the money they have. But we're not picking people because of their stuff. Oh, they got cabins, so I want. No, we're looking at qualities and characteristics of people that we want to implement into our lives. And once you get past the stuff and you start choosing characteristic stuff in your life, could you imagine if the world's full of those? Now, the question is, did you make it? Again, these are rhetorical questions for us to process and ponder in our own lives. Did you or would you make it on somebody's list? Now, I know we're not supposed to, you go to elementary school and they start telling you, oh, don't worry about what other people think about you. That is true. Number one key to failure is worrying about what other people think of you, okay? So I'm not trying to implement something in your life you're not supposed to be doing, but this is a healthy gut check. This is a way, okay, how am I measuring this? Would somebody pick an area out in my life and go, I want to be like that? That individual is a hero in that realm of their life. Not perfect. I'm not talking about perfection. I'm talking about they see a quality in you that you possess, a Jesus likeness in that area of patience, gentleness, love, self-control, prayer. Lily was just talking about somebody praying, right? Like that's a spiritual thing. And it's when you see people excelling in those areas, you're just like, how do I do that? We're not saying they're perfect. We're just saying, boy, I want to be like that. Now, here's the deal. Here's one thing that I'm gonna help you make it on somebody's heroes list in 2024 when they're at the end going, hey, I want to be more like this individual in this area of my life. I want to be patient like they are. I want to be self-control, whatever the thing is. I want to start a business like them. I want to be a risk taker. I want to get fit. Whatever the thing is, you're gonna have to choose ought to, even when it costs you. You're going to have to choose ought to, even when it costs you. I don't know if you guys all saw the news here, and maybe Joey and Lily and Dwayne, you didn't even see this, but and maybe the news feed, because, they take on your kind of who you are. There was a thing about a pastor being arrested in Ohio for opening up the church for the homeless. You're nodding your head. Did you see that one?
Yeah, I know about this.
Did you read it?
Yeah. I have a friend who was comparing that, and then another pastor who was doing something that, in his opinion, he said this, like, comparing the two, this one shouldn't have gotten arrested and this one should have.
Yes.
So anyways.
I don't know the other comparison.
Yeah, well, we don't need to
We're just going to stay in the one that I know. But a pastor in Ohio, he was arrested. Now, again, understand this is from a newspaper, so there's a lot of details probably we don't have, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. But it's been super cold across the nation, right? Dwayne, he's been locked down at his house. There's been no getting around very much because the snow is still on their ground and it's super cold. That's across the whole United States. Milwaukee this past week, now that's close to us here. Just this week, they had 4 people that were homeless freeze to death from the ages of 40, 60, 70, and 80. Those were the age groups of them. They just froze to death outside, Joey. They didn't have a place to go. Froze. Pastor in Ohio, experiencing similar temperatures that Milwaukee had, decided to open the church doors and let the homeless sleep inside. And he was arrested. I don't know if, when I say arrested, I didn't take he spent night in jail. It was just more that he was taken in and he was breaking the law because where his church was in a district that you couldn't have people sleep in.
Yeah.
So
it was like the city ordinances.
Right.
He got in trouble with that.
Now, I'm not here to argue this principle, okay? It's just a story that when I was thinking about knowing that we're going to talk on this, choose ought to even when it costs you. It cost that pastor a reputation because nationally now he is known for being a lawbreaker. Like you look at, that pastor at that church, he got arrested. Do you know why? No. What are you going to think it's about? You're going to think it's something real bad. So now he's got this marred reputation potentially, but he did what he ought to preserve life for humans, even though it was going to cost him. And I just see the story. I don't have all the details. The details I gave you is what I got. So with the details I have from the news article I read, it's like, yeah, there's the guy that loves humans and is like, okay, I understand that's a law, but this is difference between life and death. This is the difference in health for someone. I'm going to do what I ought to over, or even though it's going to cost me. And that's a story of, there you go, it cost him. And I it's a shame on that city that would do something like that and miss the mark. And maybe they didn't have all the details, but it's like, man, this guy, it's not like he made a permanent shelter based on the way I read it. It was just, man, it's cold this week. Come stay warm. That's what you should do. That's the definition of choose ought to, even when it will cost you. Dwayne, did you hear that story this week?
I did not.
Yeah, it's a great story of integrity, right? That's what to me is, it's a great story that defines integrity, sticking to what you preach and living it out. So let's define integrity as I use that word. Dwayne, you're on the screen, so you're going first, man. Define the word integrity, because I think it's a popular word to use, especially in the news. It's integrity. Political season. Do they have integrity? Well, what is integrity? Is integrity as long as you never get caught? than you had integrity? What would you define integrity?
I would say integrity is doing the right thing even when no one's watching.
Ooh, you almost had it, Dwayne. Okay, I like that one. That works. That is a working. That's a working one. It's gonna be. You'll see. You'll smile when I reveal the big reveal. Lil, what would you go with?
I often think of integrity as like being the same person everywhere you go. So like, kind of like even when no one's watching, keeping the
But is that
characteristics that
character?
you feel, keeping the characteristics that like if we're talking followers of Jesus, keeping Jesus principles all the time, no matter when someone's watching. Similar
Okay.
to what Dwayne said. I'm just trying to say something different.
Yeah, say
that's-
something.
Yeah. I mean, if I went first, I would have said exactly what Dwayne would have said.
Okay. And I think that's where most of us go. But again, I gave you the definition a second ago without saying this is what integrity. Integrity is doing what you ought to, even though it costs you. I think it gets really blurry when you talk about, you're the same person in every location or same person when no one else is around. That's character. You have the same characteristics no matter where you are environment wise. Integrity is, and you only know if you have good integrity is when it's tested. You can't say I have good integrity if it's never been tested. That's the problem with teenagers, is that it's hard to trust them in every area in their life because they haven't been tested yet. They're being tested as teenagers, and in that you learn about their integrity. That they will, especially like I'll use my house, 8 kids, they hold everybody accountable in the house, and then it's like, hold on, you just held your sister to a standard that you yourself aren't holding yourself to. That's not integrity. Integrity is doing what you ought to, even if it costs you. Now, here's a statement for you I wrote. When we have a breach in our integrity, we have a long list of excuses why we didn't do what we ought to. But when it comes to others, we have no patience for those with a lack of integrity. Do you agree with that statement, Dwayne?
I do. We definitely are quick to we know all the circumstances when it's on us, but when we don't know the circumstances, like we're quick to like it that shouldn't matter. Like nothing like that. This is right. That's what should have been done. So we kind of give ourselves excuses and extenuating circumstances.
Yeah. Like, let's use the pastor story that from Ohio. Had he not done what he ought to, and he would have said, and they had people on their doorsteps that had died or froze, right? Well, the reason I didn't do it is if I opened the door, then I could get arrested and I would have a bad reputation. And all of a sudden, these excuses are the reason why he didn't open up the doors. And it sounds like that makes sense. We justify when we have a breach in our integrity, but zero patience for other people when they have a breach in integrity. That's what frustrates me in any news capacity, really, is the judgment that comes in that we write and we point fingers as if we are, that we ourselves have done it perfect the whole time. I also think that one of the unique and hard things about integrity is private or personal. Sorry, it is personal, but it is not private. It's personal, but it's not private. What do you think, Lil, on that one?
Like, are you saying that you can't keep who you are in like to yourself? Like in some way, like who you are is going to be revealed? Is that what you're saying? I don't know what you're trying to say.
To answer your question, I guess I'll use a story from 605 BC.
Cool.
I can illustrate it more than I can probably explain it. I can explain it in showing you with even modern day, but honestly, integrity is personal, but it's not private. I mean, you see this all the time in relationships. When there's a breach of integrity inside marriage and somebody has an affair, what happens? That personal breach now becomes public and affects somebody else. When there's a breach in our integrity, it impacts other people. It's not just, there's collateral damage when there's a breach in integrity. Yeah. People are hurt. So we're going to use this story from around 605 BC before Christ. So this is heaps of years ago. This is a long, ancient story. You're going to be able to go to the book of Daniel in the Bible. It's about Daniel, okay? But let's give you some... I got to make sure I give you the facts in detail so you can track this thing. Nebuchadnezzar. There's a name for you. I've never heard anybody name their child Nebuchadnezzar. Have you, Lil?
King Neb. Nope.
How about you, Dwayne? Anybody around in the South naming their kids Nebuchadnezzar?
No, not a common name.
Not Joey?
Nope.
The third baby being born going to be Nebuchadnezzar?
Probably not.
Probably not. Think about it. Maybe you should
I'll
pose
think
it
about
to Michaela
Yeah,
tonight,
I'll
your
pose
wife.
it for sure.
Hey,
Neb.
Neb. We'll shorten it down to Neb, but Nebuchadnezzar. He is the king of Babylon, defeated the Egyptian, and was left what was left of the remnant of the Assyrian army in a famous ancient battle called the Battle of Carchemish. Because where it happened, where the big battle happened. So he's pretty infamous in his time in 605 BC. He is a warrior king. He's decimating the ancient world, if you can understand. He wasn't supposed to win these battles. He was the underdog, and he did. He ended the reign of the Assyrians, which is a wild idea that you're thinking the end of a group of people was because of this guy, Nebuchadnezzar. His reputation was he was a big bad bully. He didn't care. He bragged about his ability to just take over kingdoms. He had a king collection. He wouldn't kill the kings. He would give instructions. Hey, we want to preserve the life of the king. We want to bring them to where we are so that we can share to the world at times. Here's the kings. And he would have big parties, and he would escort the kings of nations into the ballroom where the party's happening, and they're in chains. They're looking rugged, and he would go, here's the king of this empire that what he's doing is flexing. He is flexing his ability to do what he wants, when he wants, and how he wants to do. He's trying to tell the future kingdoms, don't mess with me. Look at what I did to all the other empires of our day. So Nebuchadnezzar, bad dude. He had a king collection. Here's his strategy when he would go fight to take over. He'd take the kings and he would collect the youngest and brightest of their cultures. And he would bring them back to Babylon, where he would change their name, and he would give those individuals 3 years to eat their food and to become like the Babylonians. Teach them their language, and after 3 years, he would test them, the brightest of their mind, he would keep. He would also bring the rest of the culture of people he would turn them into slaves, where they would go and work the fields. They would become what would build their infrastructure in the city. Nebuchadnezzar he was a guy you didn't want to mess with. And so we pick up a story after Nebuchadnezzar went to the south of Israel, known as Judah, and he went to fight to take over the Israelites. It was a very, very short battle. It was embarrassing. It was total destruction. And the king brings back what I just said. He brought back the kings, he brought back groups of people. And that's where we pick up the story in Daniel chapter 1, verse 3. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar ordered his chief of court's officials to bring in the king's service some of the Israelites from the royal family and nobility. So it's the best of the Israelites. Come back. Bring them back. Okay? So he brings them back. Brought them back to Babylonian. He would change their name. Lil, you recently did this, and so this is a perfect example. You recently got a new cat. What was that cat's name prior to you getting the cat?
I think just Kitty.
Just Kitty. It was the name, but that's what they called the cat. Kitty. Is that cat still named Kitty?
Rarely.
What is the name?
Weasley.
Weasley. You changed the name of the cat, what does that actually say? You're changing the name, but what in that whole action, what are you saying about the cat?
That I own him.
You own the cat.
He's mine.
When you change the name of something, it is a flex.
So I'm owned now also.
Because your name has been changed?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic because she
It's
recently
okay.
got
I'm all for talking about it. I listened to a podcast yesterday. It's all good.
Oh my gosh. It used to be, I read the Bible the other day. Nah, I just listen to podcasts.
I'm reading the Bible while I listen to it.
Oh my goodness.
My Bible's
Okay.
wide open.
Okay. So when you change the name of something, you are taking ownership. And King Neb here, he changed the name of who we're going to famously give the name the Fab Four. If you've grown up with the church, you know them. But he changed their names because it says, hey, you no longer who you were. I own you. You are no longer yours. Lily, you gave your name up when you got married. You chose to take.
Yeah.
It wasn't a mandatory thing.
Oh, yeah.
It was, I'm submitting
Full
my life
consent
to.
giving it up.
Okay.
Take Wiener out of here.
Yeah, get that out of here. And there's so many
Love
jokes
you.
that come to my
Love you,
mind
Dad.
every time she says things like that. But we got to keep it PG today, folks.
Oh my gosh.
Think about the city of Babylon when you come into it and all this diversity of the king bringing back all these people. Like this city was full of different languages, different ethnicities. It was a metropolitan, probably much like Miami, Minneapolis, the bigger Chicago, whatever, big Tampa, right? It's got this a ton of people that are coming into it to show, again, it's a big flex. Look at what we've done. Our city represents the people of all over the world because we've taken over the world. It's probably a lot like where you work, where you go to school, where you shop and do life. The diversity that you're bumping into in social media. People think differently. They speak differently. They have accents. We do life much like the people in the day of Daniel here in Babylon, where it's like different thoughts, different beliefs, and different standards. So, Daniel chapter 1, verse 3 to 4. Now the king brings the 3 or 4 guys back, and he goes on and says, bring the young men without any physical defect. Here was the qualification for him. Handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well-informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. He was to teach them the language and literature of the Babylonians. So he's getting the best of each nation he overthrows to see if he can get them to eventually come into his court. And to me, when I read that, it's wild, okay? Think about these that were selected, how lucky they are. Because the rest of those that were brought back are out in the fields, making bricks, messing with straw, right? Like they're doing gritty, nasty stuff. They're not getting fed all the time. They're thirsty. Here these guys are, man. They're in the palace. They are living life large. So the king, Daniel chapter 1, verse 5, the king assigned them a daily amount of food, wine from the king's table, which right there, in this day and age, just perspective for you to understand, because we don't think about this very much, though there are people in this world at this time period that do struggle with food. But the majority of us, we got food. But in this day and age, starvation was always right on the cusp. You were on the verge of it because food you couldn't preserve it very well. You could preserve meat for a little bit of time, but eventually spoil. You would eat a couple times a week. We don't even fathom that because we're eating 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times snacks all the times, right? We just have food all the time with us. Lily is never too far from food. I guarantee you in that bag that's 5 feet from her, have food in it.
Yep.
Yeah, see, she's a snacker.
I don't like when I get hungry. I gotta fuel myself.
We don't want you to be hangry. And so thank you for it's good. But my point is we have food near us all the time.
It's true.
In this day and age, not a chance. But here you go, hand-selected, cream of the crop people have food, drink, and place to live. And how many know there are like 3 very important rules about life? You need to eat, you need shelter, and you need purpose. If you don't have purpose, it's a downward spiral. What's the point of living? You need purpose. That's why we're spending so much time on it. You need a place to eat and a place to live. Daniel chapter, continue in Daniel. They were to be trained for 3 years, and after they were to enter the king's service. Out of those that were taken to Babylon were the Fab Four, we're calling them. You know them as Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Those are your 4 bad boys. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're the fiery furnace deal. Okay, whole nother story. Daniel's who we're talking about today, but you know what? Their names got changed.
But yeah.
What?
It was just a little confusing because Daniel was the old name, and then they changed to Belteshazzar.
Right, that's
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are their new names. That's what this says.
Yes, but you're ahead. You just read ahead. I read verse 5. Verse 6 explains everything. Though.
Yeah. No, I was confused because it was on the screen too early, I think.
Okay, so Daniel chapter 1, verse 6. Sorry about the screen. Literally I didn't read the screen. Among those who were chosen from Judah was Daniel. And here's the list of you can see him up here. Daniel, Hananiah. Yep, Mishael and Hazarah. I don't know. I'm not very good. I got to really practice to say it all right. The chief officials gave them new names to Daniel. The names were Belteshazzar, to Hannah, Shadrach, to Meshach, and to Asherah, Abednego. You can see the cross references, okay? But they had it made, right? But here's the twist into the story with Daniel. But Daniel, in verse 8, he says this, but Daniel resolved, firmly determined to do something, resolved, okay? Daniel resolved. He firmly determined to do something. I know you can read that up there. He resolved to not defile himself with royal food and wine and asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself in this way. What did he do?
I would say that's a conviction.
Yeah,
like Daniel had conviction.
He made up his mind. He decided long ago who he was going to be. And that's again the conversation we're having today about integrity. It's a predetermined decision of who you're going to be. On your way to becoming who God's ultimately predetermining who you're going to be, how you're going to act in situations at work. When pornography is set in front of your face, predetermining what you're going to do. When you have the opportunity to take something that no one else will catch you to do, predetermining what you're going to do. Predetermining, oh man, if it costs me, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to do what I ought to, even though it's going to cost you. But he resolved, he decided to not defile himself, desecrate himself. He made up his mind not to undignify himself and not lower himself. He decided not to accept the fact that he's anything other than who he knew he was. And who was he? He was a follower of the one true God. And knew no matter what, he was not going to trade his values or beliefs for anything. He made up his mind to live a life in a way that would honor the one true King. And that's really the launching pad for our purpose. The launching pad for our life is building our life in that I'm going to live a life unto the King. I'm going to honor the one true King. I'm going to resolve not to defile myself in what I put in my eyes, meaning what I take in as movies or content, images, or what I put in my head through podcasts and music I listen to. I'm not going to defile. I'm going to predetermine not to do it. I'm not going to have to struggle with the decision when it's presented to me on the day of because I pre-made my decision. See, if you're faced with the decision, you don't know, should I do it or not? You haven't predetermined. Those that you and I say I want to be like in those areas in life, they predetermined that. That's not just, they got there by chance. It was they predetermined and put in their life the right things to grow those areas in their life. So Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food. Now, if somebody would go, and I'm sure the boys and the women out in the fields are going, Daniel, what are you doing, man? You got a good gig going on here. You got food and wine? Wine, man. We're drinking water that probably animals are peeing in. Daniel, just stay quiet, man. God will totally understand. Just stay quiet. Maybe there's a situation at work that you know your quietness says, I agree with, though you don't. And you're like, but if I speak up, I could lose my job. I won't get the promotion. Integrity. Doing what you ought to even when it costs you. Our integrity as a follower of Jesus, it's going to cost us something at some point. Because the other groups are working the salt mines in Babylon. Another group is dealing with the straw and hay for the cattle. Just stay quiet, Daniel. God will understand. But the thing that Daniel knew, maybe a lot of us, we should maybe understand this a little bit more or make it take it more serious. You ever, I'll ask this question. I'm going to put you on the spot here. I don't know the answer. You recently married. Do you pray, you and Jordan, before you eat your meals?
We do.
Okay, why?
This is what we do. And then you know what that means. Why?
Do you pray out loud?
Yeah.
Okay, and just give us a rundown. How would the prayer look like or sound like, not look like?
Well, I mean, we thank God for what's going on, like contextually, and then we pray for.
What's contextually mean?
Like, thank you for. We just thank Him. Contextually means like what's happening in our
day?
circumstances, or like, yeah, if God showed up in something, like we recently had a big ordeal with a car situation, and God showed up big time for that. So thanking Him often for using people to help us with that. And then we just, what we pray, like, for example, Legend had a birthday recently. We prayed for him. The night before was his birthday.
Okay.
So if anything that we know we want to be praying about, we pray for.
I feel like you're trying to fish for what I'm looking for.
I don't know. I'm just sharing.
Yeah, I like it.
I'm
I
just
like
sharing.
it. I think it's great. Okay, how about you, Joey? Young family. You guys pray before you eat?
Usually.
Okay.
There are times where we don't, but usually.
It's not a perfect record here, Joey. We're not.
But yeah, I mean, similar to Lily, we are very thankful. We thank God for things that God's doing during the day, and that we're just thankful for. And then we thank Him for the food, for providing food for us.
Ding, ding, ding. That's what I was looking for right there. Thanking for the food. Why do you thank for the food? Why do you pray a prayer to God, thanking Him for the food that you made?
Because ultimately, He provided the food.
You're winning today, Joey. That's it.
Created the world. He created the soil.
Yes. Yes. Dwayne, we didn't get to you, but Dwayne, do you pray before your meals with your crew?
We do. We'll actually have our kids. Sometimes, we'll take turns who's praying. So Harley loves to pray, and Harley would give in, just kind of, pray that my sister's hands feels, or her wrist feels better, or it's just some sweet, something like that.
Yeah. Again, no matter how everybody does it, and this isn't a check-in, do you pray regularly, Joey? Just to help you, there are some times that we all just dig in. Okay, so just so you know, we don't pray 100% of the time.
It's only Jordan and I at the moment, so we don't have many distractions.
So this isn't make somebody feel bad. I just want to make sure you don't feel you're feeling something that you don't need to feel. But and Joey nailed it. We pray, like in the house, we are constantly thanking Him for the food. And I think sometimes we just do it like da-da-da without the heart of it going, understanding, no, hold on. God provides the food. He rains it, keeps bugs away from it. No matter how the bugs stay away, I'm not getting into pesticides and all that stuff, but we grow a garden here, so it's even a little bit more of a perspective for us when we're eating our salads and things of that nature in summer here, or we just cracked open a can of or jar of salsa that we grew everything and jarred it. That it's like we grew this. God provided all the rain. He provided the bugs staying away. And in what we were saying, we're going, God provides the food. Food goes into our bodies. Body is healthy. Then people can prosper. So it's God, food, body, health, prosperity. It's understanding that when we eat food, that God's a part of that. Here's the thing that Daniel knew. If Daniel ate the food in Babylon, that they were praying to Marduk, which is their god, they would credit Daniel's health and his well-being to Marduk. And he knew he didn't want to give any credit to Marduk because he knew he served the one true God, Yahweh. And he's like, I'm not about to give any accolades to Marduk. if I happen to do good. He made his mind up. He predetermined this. This wasn't he had to sleep at night and pray about it 6 times. I do chuckle at some of us. I got to go pray about what's the right thing to do here. What? Are you kidding? Really? Like, we know. What it is you're going to have a breach in your integrity. That's what you're praying about, trying to justify the breach. When it's like, no, it's going to cost me, but I know what I ought to do, and I'm still going to do it because it's going to cost me. You know what you ought to do. So, what like I said, Daniel's basically refusing to be used as evidence that Marduk is more than a figment of the Babylonians' imagination. He made up his mind ahead of time. We need to make up our mind ahead of time before we get into a situation with our boyfriend or girlfriend that we don't want to cross lines. It's making up our mind ahead of time what we're going to do. But when we refuse to do what we ought to do because we might lose, we miss the opportunity. We miss the opportunity of what we see in Daniel's life where he served the King of Kings. See, one breach of integrity leads to another. It makes it easier for the erosion of breaches all over the place. That's why it's so important to not have a breach in your integrity. Even in your, I'm going to use this in a spiritual place right now. Even in your giving your tithes and offerings, things are tight. And you know that all things are from God. Some of you know it, and you're like, boy, it's tight. I'm just gonna not give my tithes this month. No one else knows this. It's between me and God. It's a breach of integrity. And it will make the next breach of your integrity. It creates a pattern. See, Daniel doesn't pretend. He doesn't say, I'm going to eat this food because it's violating my conscience and I'm afraid of God. So I'll feed the food to the dogs and get another food because that would also be a breach in integrity. See, you get what I wrote there? Maybe it doesn't make sense to you. Is that he's not saying, I'm going to pretend to eat the food and then dump the food on the ground and then I'll go hunt around for other food, because what would that be? That's not being truthful with those people around you. That's being deceptive. Yeah, you can justify, well, if I pretend this, then I live longer. Right? Justification. But what happens? God still doesn't get the credit, because to all of them, the king, Nebuchadnezzar, thinks he's eating and drinking the wine. But he's not. He's dumping it. There's no track record of what's going on. So Daniel doesn't even come with that. What Daniel does in the story, as we continue in Daniel chapter 1, verse 8, Daniel asks the chief official for permission not to defile himself in this way. Daniel places his future in the hands of somebody else. Guy I don't know. Pretty much this guy, you want to take my life anyway, so you don't like me. I was the enemy, and now you got to put up with me. I'm a foreigner. I talk funny. I smell different. I like different foods. I serve a different God, but I'm coming to you saying, hey, I'd rather not do this. There's got to be another option. This is bad character. So Daniel is telling him, I am in the hands of God. He is saying, now, God, I need your mercy. Daniel's only hope was that God would intervene, but yet God had not promised he would intervene. See, integrity, working out integrity and relying on our integrity, a godly integrity, is not knowing the outcome ahead of time. It's knowing it's going to cost you. But if God shows up, wonderful, then we have a now God story. When we sacrifice our integrity, we are all tempted to do this. When we sacrifice our integrity, to get ahead, when we sacrifice our integrity to get the things we can't get any other way, when we sacrifice our integrity, here's what happens. We close the door on that opportunity. And what is that opportunity? Of seeing God show up and show off. When we take it all matters into our own hand and say, I got this, I'm going to do what I think's wise, we short circuit something God already wanted to do in our life, where it would change your nightly prayers at dinner from bless this food, May we have snow, amen. It would be, God, thank you for showing up. As Lily was talking about, thanking God for what's happened with her car. Worldly wisdom at the beginning of that car situation, just put it on a credit card, Lily. Then you have your certainty is going to get fixed. Just go ahead and do that. And then, you just have to deal with the payments. That's worldly wisdom. But her integrity was, no, I know I'm going to wait for God to show up and show off and give us the next step to do. We're not going to get a hold of God or ahead of God. We're going to go real slow. That's what she kept saying in the office. No, we're going to go real slow on this. This is the first time as a couple, we're going to move slow. We're going to move slow. We just feel like slow. And it was like a month of slow. And then all of a sudden, God showed up in a way, and we just don't need to share all those details at the moment. God shows up in a way that she didn't see coming. I didn't see coming. And bam, she has a now God moment because she went slow and didn't have a breach of her integrity, because part of their integrity as a couple is we don't want to go further into debt. We're trying to be wise financially. And so they didn't sabotage the opportunity of seeing God show up in their life because they held on to their integrity, and it cost them. They have been down to one car. They've been borrowing people's cars. It's been a thing, hasn't it, Lil?
Yeah.
You've had to juggle, hey, can I borrow this car from this person? Can I use your car? Oh, this car now that you were borrowing has a little problem in the cold weather, so now you're stranded. You're going to go get somebody else's car?
Yeah, talk about marriage too, because I'm the one asking to borrow cars, and Jordan's car is the one who's broken. And it's not that I'm taking that on for other reasons, but it's just funny.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much to the story, but God's always in the middle of it. See, I wrote it like this. You might never know what God might have done if you don't trust him. You'll never know the story you would have had the opportunity to tell if you cast yourself upon sometimes when I write it, I'm more passionate writing faster and then when I go to read it, it makes no sense. That's the problem. But you just won't know the story God wants to write if you short circuit your sabotage, or you sabotage your integrity. And we've called it a now God moment because in the story, after Daniel does this, you'll see there's no guarantees. There are no guarantees with this. Just like the budget we're stuck to our integrity, knowing what we feel God's called us to do. We know it's going to work out. We know 100% we're going to all that money, none of that. There's a large possibility that I've got to go get a job at some point this year. If that doesn't change or whatever, that doesn't mean when I say that, I always have to preface it. I'm still going to be here. Just I got to go work somewhere because I said to the leadership team, I will give my salary to keep this thing going. Like, that's how committed I am to this. I'm not playing games here. I'm not messing around. I feel very strong on what God's asked us to do. And so Daniel places his hands in the hands of God, but through a man. Hey, listen, I'd like to abstain from this. I'd like to eat Jewish meals, what I was accustomed to, the food that I pray over from Yahweh, he blesses and stuff. I'm going to stick to that. And Daniel and this guy agrees to, okay, we're going to do a test case. If it works out and I improve, then I get to stay with it. If not, okay, we'll go do your thing. So Daniel chapter 1, verse 10. Now God had caused the official to show favor and compassion to Daniel. But the official told Daniel, I'm afraid of my lord the king, who has assigned your food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the other young men of your age? The king would then have my head because of you. Remember old Neb. Neb don't mess around. Neb is a violent man. Neb would kill this guy. Wait, you didn't do what I asked you to do? And look at the quality of these young men. Look at Daniel. He looks awful. So this guy it's not a figure of speech. He would be off of my head. This is the real deal. So there's this tension. But now God, that line right there in Daniel chapter 1, verse 10, now God calls the official to show favor. That budget that we wrote is at the end of the year of 2024, now God showed up and showed off. There's no way, there's just no resources sitting underneath some tree somewhere. We're going to dig up and go, look, we preserved this for this moment. It's going to be a now God moment that you that call this home get to celebrate. Look at what God did. The leadership of the church decided to do this. Now God did that. Now God. And I'm in the camp of if we're wrong and God, not wrong. I don't think you can ever be wrong but if God doesn't do that, as we said 3 weeks ago, then it's a sacrifice of praise. We gave something up to say, God, that's how much we love you. It's a win-win. Then Daniel said to the guard whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel in the Fab Four, please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. So he agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. Then he compared our appearance with that of young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants according to what you see. So he agreed to the test for the next 10 days. After 3 years of this test, the boys were brought into the king in small groups to be measured or tested. The king talked with them, and he found none equal to Daniel. There's their Hebrews names of the Fab Four. So they entered the king's service in every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king questioned them. He found them 10 times better than all the magicians, the enchanters in his entire kingdom of all the nations. The best of the best right here. And it was because God showed up and God blessed it. And now God did something. Can you be a part of a Now God story by sticking to your integrity, doing the right thing, doing what you ought to, even though it will cost you? 2024, you and I are going to have plenty of opportunities to do this. Doing the right thing, even though it would cost you, it could come down to the way you speak of coworkers or family members. Oh, I want to put them down. This would really make me look better if I really put them down. Well, that's not what you ought to do. It might cost you to stay quiet, but you know your integrity says, I'm going to be a builder of people, not a tear down. We as a church, we have a Now God line in our budget. It literally, line item is Now God. And it's, what is God now doing? What does he want us to do with this amount of money? And so it's pretty fun that at the end of this year, we are going to write, again, the largest check we've ever written to give away in one shot to a nonprofit organization that we get to present to them. We're just going to mail it. We're not presenting it. It's just mail it. Here you go. But it's going to go back to the great passion play we're doing, mission trip. We're going to fund a project we're going to do in a large capacity, which we're going to help them do what they're doing. But that's what we feel now God's asked us to do. Now God, show up and what do you want us to do? Do you want now God moments in your life? I think you do. I think you do. I think you want to be a person of integrity, of good things. Dwayne, as we now talk about the Now God moment, we were discussing this as a team last week and hearing the teaching again, Dwayne, from the Now God moments and hearing the Daniel thing. He chose to do the right thing, even though it cost him. He did what he ought to do, though it cost him. What are your thoughts as we land this plane and coming out of the meeting last week? And you know, when you see the budget like that, people were trying to ask, okay, so how far along? Or when you say you're gonna be in the red, are we talking like $1,000? What's the? And you see 33,000 some odd change. You're like, whoa, okay, that's a thing. The Now God moment, Dwayne. How do you feel with it?
I mean, it's one of those things to where it's, when you take the step out and when you have that integrity and you see God consistently show up and meet expectation, then you realize, okay, hey, you know what? Like, I can't outgive God. I can't, like, when I step out on faith, even though I don't have all the answers done, like, I know that the king I serve is, like, he has it all. And if he's called us to do this, like, this is not just the leadership team saying, hey, you know what, like, we want to do this, like, this is what we want to do. It's like, no, this is what God has called us to do. So because of that, it's like, hey, this is a no-brainer. Like, hey, let's do this. I think throughout this year, when you have that opportunity to kind of step out in faith and you kind of are hesitant about doing it and don't do it, like, you're kind of robbing yourself of those stories, of that opportunity for God to really grow that faith in you, because, like, he like when we moved to Minnesota, that was obviously a big step of faith. And we didn't sign our contracts to go back to our previous school. And it was all the way up until like July. Like one weekend, I got a call on Thursday. We hit the road on Friday, not knowing that we were going up there, and then have the interview, find a house, and then are back by Monday. And like all of that happened in a very short time. So my family, we've had those opportunities to kind of trust God, to step out in faith, and God has used that, and God has grown that faith to where when this comes up, it's like, okay, hey, you know what? It's $30,000 deficit. It's like, okay, God's calling us to do this. God owns it all. Like He's gonna take care of us, and we're excited to see kind of what at the end of this year, what God's doing with that. Yeah. So, yeah, like it's a great step of faith for all of us as individuals, but also as a church. This is another step. This is a story that's going to resonate. That's going to be a part of Unlocked Church for generations of this. So
Yeah,
it's exciting.
Yeah, and I said it last week, I think, but I believe what we do in 2024 as Unlocked Church's leadership team will have impacts 100 years from now for Unlocked Church because of us doing what we ought to, even though it's going to cost us in a whole lot of areas. It's going to cost us, but it's to reach people that don't know Jesus yet. It's to help marriages that are broken, to help parents parent, to help students build their respect for themselves through biblical principles. Though it's paying the price today. And the reason we're so transparent in it is that we want every person that's online and comes in person to watch what God does and take it as, oh man, if God will do that there, He'll do this here. It's us taking encouragement from the Daniel story. Now God did what? The now God stories are a response to the heart of His people. You don't have now God stories in neutral. If you don't do, like, I won't speak like that. I mean, I don't want to put God in a box. But the stories that we're talking about where you're like, wowed, whoa, there is I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to do what I ought to do, even though it costs you. At work, now God did this. Why? Because I did the right thing. Do the right thing. Leave the outcome up to God. Do the right thing, leave the outcome up to God. That's what Daniel's doing here. And it's tremendous to watch Daniel's life because he's 15 years old here. And the story goes on, when you read the whole story, by the time he's 70, he gets thrown in the lion's den. Go read that story. It's 70 years old because his integrity was still what it was when he was 15 years old in a political environment where they were trying to find bad things about Daniel. The only bad they could dredge up about Daniel was he prayed. That was it. He prayed. That was the negative they found with Daniel, and that caused him to be thrown in the lion's den. It's worth a read. You'll see it. But imagine, 15 years old, deciding to do what he ought to, even though it's going to cost you. And then at 70, he does the exact same thing. It's wild. Joey, any closing thoughts?
That's wild. No, I mean... yeah, I mean, I love what Dwayne said. I'm super excited for the year, and even seeing those numbers and just, hoping that we can see how God shows up and how He, like he said, we're gonna hopeful that there's gonna be a amazing story behind all this.
And I want the same thing, not for just Unlocked Church, but everybody. Especially those that I do know your stories. I want what God does through that, through your budget as well. Is maybe your budget looks similar, and you're like, okay, I feel the same thing, Scott. And I'm just saying, may you find encouragement, inspiration by what God does through this, knowing that He'll do the same thing through you. That's the things you're praying for. Those that are praying to get pregnant, those, Kayla Lily and her husband bringing a baby home soon, and the nervousness and excitement in that, hey, no. Do what you ought to do, even though and now God shows up, right? Like, let's give credit where credit's due instead of how awesome we are. So I hope today you get something out of it. I hope it helps you as you're planning your new year goals and stuff, as it's still plenty of time to still write those down and what you're going to do and who you want to be at the end of the year. Well, I hope it's a person with integrity. That it's integrity you're going to work on this year. And maybe you look at your life going, I've had a lot of breaches of integrity, and it's time to tighten it up, clean it up, and watch God do what only he can do. And now God showed up. And now God did this. Those stories are so much fun. Joey, was it last week and you gave me 3 now God moments?
I did have 3 non-God moments. Now God moments.
And you did.
In the past, I don't know, 4 months or so.
And when he was telling me, they had nothing to do with me, but I was encouraged by him. I was like, look at how good God is.
Yeah.
Look at how good. So when we have now God moments, we need to tell. We need to share what God's doing, because that's why we have now God moments, to build the faith of other people. Oh, if God's going to do that in your life, he might do something like that. Am I like, but if he doesn't, he's still God and he has a plan. That's what we got to hold on to. It doesn't mean he's going to do it. It's just I'm presenting the moment for God to do something. So let me pray. God, I just make it so. Make it stick in our minds and our hearts as we go into work and school, and we look at our own budgets and we look at our goals. May we have now God moments this year. But because of our integrity, we did what you asked us to do. We led our family the way you asked us to do. We fought the good fight like we know we ought to, even though it might cost us. May you show up and show off in all of our lives, Jesus. Make it so. Make it so. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thanks
for watching today, everybody. I hope you got something out of it. We love all of you. Thanks for engagement into the chat, for everybody watching everywhere. So good. Dan and Joe, enjoy your football game today. Man, you didn't see that one coming this year for the Bucks. Could be their year again. That'd be a wild story. So everybody, if you got a team you're going for, I hope they win. Dwayne, thanks for being with us today. Enjoy a couple more days of the cold weather down there before it comes 50 degrees.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah. It's coming. It's coming. Okay. We love you, Dwayne.
See you guys.
Bye.
Joey, thanks for being with us. Everybody else, have a fabulous day. Adios. We out.